Good evening and welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackle. Tonight we continue our Commitment 2019 Hot Seat debates. Up tonight, the race for Jefferson Parish president. As we all know in this area, Jefferson Parish is one of the largest parishes in this area. It has a population of more than 430,000 people. 3 candidates have qualified to run. They're looking to replace current parish president Mike Yenny, who decided a little over a month ago not to seek re-election after serving 1 term in office. The 3 candidates are all here tonight. They are Lee Bonacarrere, no party affiliation, from Bridge City; Cynthia Lee Shang, a Republican who's currently serving on the council; and John Young, also a Republican, former council member, also former parish president. First off, thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to have a brief opening statement here. Mr. Bonacarrere, we start alphabetically, so you have 30 seconds to make an opening statement.
I will be the best person to be president of Jefferson Parish because I will put the people's voice back into government. We have been silenced by career politicians and their campaign contributors. Thank you.
Mr. Bonacarrere, thank you. Ms. Lee Shang, you have 30 seconds to make an opening statement.
Thank you. It has certainly been my honor to be on the Jefferson Parish Council for the past 10 years. It has been the highlight of my career. And a little bit about my background: I am a former federal law enforcement officer, so that operational side of things, I've managed very large federal operations, and I really look forward to getting to the operational side of the House in managing people, which I think is my specialty. I've enjoyed the legislative side of the House, but I think my strong suit would be on the operational side.
All right, Ms. Lee Shang, thank you. Mr. Young, you also have 30 seconds to make an opening statement.
This election is about the future of Jefferson Parish and which candidate has the experience and qualifications to lead us to a better, more secure, and more prosperous future. I have a record of proven, effective, and independent leadership. I am the only candidate that has successfully managed over 3,000 employees and a budget of nearly $700 million, all while not raising any taxes and improving our financial reserves.
Thank you, Mr. Young. We're going to start the next question with you, Ms. Lee Shang. It's actually a yes or no question. Did current parish president Mike Yenny, who was involved in a texting scandal, in 2016 with a teen male, do the right thing by not seeking re-election? Because he could have been running in this race. Yes or no, did he do the right thing by not seeking re-election?
Yes, I believe he did the right thing.
Mr. Young, same question. Yes or no, did Mike Yenny do the right thing by not seeking re-election?
Yes, I think he made the correct decision.
And Mr. Bonacarrere, same question.
Yes.
All right. Here's another one, Mr. Young. We're going to start with you. You have 60 seconds or 1 minute to answer this question. If elected, what's your plan on improving quality of life with the parish landfill? It affects the West Bank, and the smell issue on the East Bank is also a big problem. In 60 seconds, what is your plan for the landfill if you're elected?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that while I was parish president before, we didn't have the same issues with the landfill. One of the distinguishing factors is that in this present administration, they began accepting liquid industrial waste, which we never accepted. In terms of what we're going to do at the landfill to improve it and make sure we solve those problems, I'm going to appoint an environmental monitor. We're going to purchase air monitors throughout the landfill and throughout the parish along the river as well. And we're going to make sure, I'm going to call for a legislative audit when I take office to see that the money that's already been spent has been spent properly. And we're going to manage that landfill on a daily basis to make sure that we protect the quality of air for the citizens of Jefferson Parish. They deserve nothing less.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bonacarrere. Same question. If elected, what is your plan for the landfill that's affecting so many people on both sides of the river? 60 seconds also.
I would hire a company with drones to track the smell, because as far as I know, nobody knows where the smells are coming from. They're saying they're petrochemical smells. There's stuff going on in the river. I have no idea if it's the landfill. I want to pinpoint where the smell is coming from, and people should not, in Jefferson Parish, should not have to breathe strange odors for 2 years before politicians do anything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bonacarrere. Ms. Lee Shang, same question. If elected, what is your plan in 60 seconds for the issues with the landfill?
Well, I would have to respectfully disagree with Mr. Young in that he did not have problems during his tenure. We have been knee-deep in the landfill trying to chase these odors. The first time this council was informed of the issues and the problem with the landfill was last summer, and since that time, we have had to, many of us have visited the landfill many times, have had to put almost $12 million into fixing the landfill. But in this past year, what we've realized is that the administration, Mr. Young's administration, knew about the problems in the landfill as far back as December 13. And the question that we all have is, why wasn't anything done at that time? And we've let the leachate build up, and now this administration and this council is stuck with going back and trying to remove the water from the landfill and try to look at removing the gases, because it's the gases on the landfill that has been causing the odors as far back as River Ridge and Harahan.
Really, we'll give you
I
10
get to
seconds
rebut?
to respond since
Okay.
she said you by name. Yes.
I respectfully disagree. This didn't occur with River Ridge and Harahan until 17 after I was gone. There were no problems with the landfill when I was there. Occasionally you'd have a problem with cover, but nothing to the extent that's happening now. And this council and this administration accepted liquid industrial waste, which our administration did not.
Really quickly, is that accurate? Did you all accept liquid industrial waste?
When one contractor took over from another contractor, his administration was notified that the landfill was essentially not working, and we can't find anything that happened since that time. So since 2013, when we may have been able to address the problem back then, we had to wait until the residents actually smelled the gas coming off the landfill to fully address the problem.
She didn't answer the question about liquid industrial waste. They did accept it in 17. It was never accepted before.
We can all agree it's a big issue that everybody has to address. We could talk about that the entire 20
Correct,
minutes. Unfortunately,
correct.
we do have to get to different topics here. Mr. Bonacore, this question will start with you. 30 seconds here, a quick one. The area known as Fat City is making a comeback right now. In 30 seconds, if elected, what is the first thing you do to continue progress in that Fat City area of Metairie?
I would have to look at what's been going on there. I heard that a bunch of businesses would shut down. And also, I don't agree on giving businesses $150,000 that are millionaires, $150,000 of our tax money to decorate the front of their building. I would stop that.
All right, Ms. Lee Sheng, same question. If elected in 30 seconds, what's the first thing you do to help Fat City, which has seen a resurgence in recent years?
I'm glad the question came up. The reason Fat Cities has seen a resurgence is because I took this issue head on almost 10 years ago, and it is a different neighborhood today. The things that we did back then, which were very hard, and people called for my recall on it, we're looking at 9 years later. There's so much business expansion. There's Drago's expanded their dining room. We have the new jewelry store opening. We have Shake Shack there. So that area is just prime, and it's doing very well. We do need to handle the parking issues, and we do need to handle the traffic issues. And Councilwoman Van Branken has been a good proponent of that.
And Mr. Young, same question. If elected in 30 seconds, what is your plan to help the resurgence with Fat City?
First of all, Fat City has been cleaned up, but it certainly has not reached its peak. It's still underutilized. We need to I would like to see us create a music district similar to Frenchman and Marigny, that young people have complained to me that there's no place for them to go to nightlife. I'm talking about live jazz type of music and regulate it so that you would bring in more restaurants, more people. Fat City is underutilized. It's dead at night with the exception of Drago's and the exception of Los Jefes.
All right, we're going to start this question with you, Ms. Lee Sheng. Once again, we're going to keep it to 30 seconds because we want to get as much information here as possible. Two of you all are seasoned pros running campaigns right now. You've run for office before, with all due respect to Mr. Bonacore. In 30 seconds, Ms. Lee Sheng, can you defend your ads against Mr. Young, accusing him of employing a man accused of sexual harassment and jumping job to job? Can you defend that ad in 30 seconds?
Absolutely. You know, Mr. Young did not manage the situation well. There was a woman who complained of sexual harassment. He took 9 months to investigate that claim. Later, after that was investigated, the woman was demoted, and then she was fired, and the parish had to pay almost $200,000 to settle the retaliation complaint. That is not good management, and I absolutely can defend that.
All right, let's keep talking about ads in 30 seconds. Mr. Young, can you defend your ads against Ms. Lee Sheng, saying that she doesn't have her facts straight and questioning her ability to lead? In 30 seconds, can you defend that ad?
Absolutely. She doesn't have her facts straight. She continues to distort the facts. The fact of the matter is that when it came to my attention, we ordered an investigation, an independent investigation. When that investigation was complete, the employee, and it's not me, they try to insinuate it's me, the employee was immediately resigned, and we handled it. That's called leadership. I supervise over 3,000 employees. They have issues right now in Jefferson Parish that they're not talking about with sexual harassment and trying to cover up. So for her to say that is she's being disingenuous.
Really quickly, is that accurate?
I think if you look at how the money flowed, the parish had to pay $200,000 to settle the retaliation claim. Just follow the money.
The sexual harassment case was dismissed with prejudice by a federal judge. The council approved with the recommendation.
To blame the council for his management ability is typical Mr. Young.
Okay, once again, we need to move on. Mr. Bonacarrere, you were not running any ads attacking either of these two, so we're going to ask you a question about this. What are your thoughts in 30 seconds on attack ads and political campaigns?
I think they're perfectly fine as long as they're not aimed at me. They can have as many ads as they want in between them. I enjoy them.
That's a very good answer. All right, we're going to start this question with you, Mr. Young. It deals with the economy. Big topic in Jefferson Parish. We all know Smoothie King left the parish, moved to Texas. In 30 seconds, if you're elected as parish president, what's the first thing you do to attract more corporate business to Jefferson?
Just what I did the last time I was parish president. I kept people's health in Jefferson Parish by working with them in Jedco to do some tax incentives. I actually was the one who helped bring Smoothie King to Jefferson Parish with G&O Inc. and Jedco. I brought Star Services. I go and meet with them, and we put our public works together, and we do what we need, and we cut through the regulatory process so we can make businesses feel welcome in Jefferson Parish, because that's what we need. We need more outside businesses relocating in Jefferson Parish so we can provide economic opportunities and quality jobs to our citizens.
All right, Mr. Bonacarrere, if elected in 30 seconds, what is your plan to bring good corporate jobs to Jefferson Parish?
I want to concentrate on people. I like business to be here. I don't want to give any handouts as far as tax breaks. If we have a lot of people here, people are fleeing. I don't know why we're concentrating on getting businesses here when the people are leaving the North Shore because of the pollution and the corruption in our government.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bonacarrere. Ms. Lee Sheng, same question in 30 seconds. If elected, what is your plan to attract more corporate jobs to Jefferson Parish?
I think it has to do with regionalism, and I think Jefferson Parish standing on its own and Orleans Parish and the surrounding parishes standing on their own is no longer a paradigm that works well for us. The statistic I like to use is if you add Jefferson Parish and Orleans Parish, we still don't equal Louisville, we still don't equal a Nashville, and we still don't equal a Jacksonville. So we have to come together as a region and sell ourselves to the rest of the country, not as separate parishes, but as a strong region.
All right, we're going to start this question with you, Mr. Bonacarrere. Let's talk politics and law enforcement. Are you supporting anybody in the current race for Jefferson Parish Sheriff?
And no, I'm undecided on that.
All right, Ms. Lee Sheng, are you supporting anybody in the current race for Jefferson Parish Sheriff?
I'm supporting Sheriff Lopinto. I think he's done an incredible job.
Mr. Young, are you supporting anybody in the current race for Jefferson Parish Sheriff?
No, I'm focused on this race.
All right, let's talk crime. We're going to start this again with you. In 30 seconds, how will you work with whoever is elected as sheriff to continue to make sure that Jefferson Parish remains a safe parish for its citizens? In 30 seconds.
I can work with anyone who's sheriff. I was a former federal law enforcement officer, and I think that partnership with the council and with the administration is absolutely crucial. I know both gentlemen in the race. I consider them both friends of mine, and those relationships are absolutely crucial. But I propose legislation as a council member to directly reduce crime because that's the law enforcement background that I have.
Mr. Young, same question in 30 seconds. If elected, how will you work with either person elected sheriff to make sure that Jefferson Parish remains safe?
Well, as a former prosecutor, I have a law enforcement background, and I'll work with any sheriff and any other elected official to make sure we protect our families from crime. When I was parish president last, we took our code enforcement department, worked with the sheriff's office to take a no broken window approach and targeted the 17 worst neighborhoods in terms of crime to eradicate those problems. And I will continue to make sure as parish president that the sheriff's office and all the municipal police departments have the appropriate resources to protect our families against crime.
All right, thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Bonacarrere, same question. If elected, how will you work with either the current sheriff or a new sheriff to make sure Jefferson Parish remains safe?
I will let him know he has our full support and we'll work as a team. I will not be targeting neighborhoods. I'm going to treat everybody equally with the code department. Everybody, if it's a problem, if there's high crime, everybody should be treated the same. And I won't have an aggressive code department either.
All right, we see a lot going on with the state right now. There is a governor's race going on right now between current Governor John Bel Edwards and two top-tier Republicans. In about 20 seconds, because we are running out of time, we're going to start this with you, Mr. Young. In 20 seconds, what is the most pressing issue facing Jefferson Parish at the State House right now?
The most pressing issue facing Jefferson Parish is getting our capital outlay money to do, continue to do major flood control projects, infrastructure projects. But actually, the most pressing one right now is the airport ingress and egress. That's a major problem for Jefferson Parish and the city of Kenner.
All right, Mr. Bonaccurra, 20 seconds, same question. What's the biggest issue facing Jefferson Parish at the State House?
I would say the airport also, because they talking about splitting neighborhoods, and that's about it.
All right, and Ms. Lee Shang, same question in about 20 seconds. What's the biggest issue facing your parish at the State House right now in Baton Rouge?
I think the question that we all agree on, it's the I-10 flyover and the exit from Loyola, so we keep that above and not into our neighborhoods and into the traffic patterns and all the stoplights that people are going to have to take in the first couple years.
All right, we are running out of time. We do want to give you all a final closing statement for about 30 seconds to let voters know why you all feel you're the best candidate for the job. We started with you, Mr. Bonaccurra. We're going to go the opposite direction. So, Mr. Young, you have 30 seconds to make a closing statement and let people know why you feel you're the best candidate for the job.
This is a critical election for Jefferson Parish. Jefferson Parish is at a crossroads. For the first time in history, we lost population over the last 2 years. Businesses are closing and leaving Jefferson Parish. We need to break from the politics of the past and embrace a future of growth and prosperity by rejecting the practices of when you award contracts, should be based upon what you know and what you can do, not who you know and who you contribute to. Zoning decisions should be based on what you know and what you can bring to the table, not who you know and who you pay. Thank you for your time. I humbly ask for your vote. May God continue to bless you and your families.
All right, thank you, Mr. Young. Ms. Lee Shang, you have 30 seconds to make a closing statement and let people know why you feel you're the best candidate for this job.
I think if you look at any position in Jefferson Parish, the parish president position is a position about we. And I think you need someone who is able to bring people together, people from different sides of the aisle, people from that you, and I think if you look at the endorsements that I've had of groups that have known and worked with Mr. Young and I for many years, you will see that the Republican Party, I have their endorsement, the Chamber, which is sometimes against the union, I have both of their endorsements, the business community, the Firefighters Association, the Home Builders Association. I think that shows a lot of the support, the community support I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lee Shang. And Mr. Bonaccurra, finally, 30 seconds to let people know why you feel you're the best candidate for this job.
All of the ills in Jefferson Parish, I find, are because of career politicians and their campaign donations. You cannot hire them to fix what they broke. So we need to have new ideas and new people to work on it.
All right. Lee Bonaccurra, no party affiliation. Cynthia Lee Shang, Republican, and John Young, Republican. We appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Good luck.
Travis.
October
Thank you.
12th.